So the first thing that we're doing when someone first comes on board, you want to make sure that you set those really good foundations from the start. You want to, the way that I like to present myself, and this is what Pete was saying, that idea of attracting in A players, I really like to present myself as a company, not a one-man show. When you think about drifting out of your head and dropping into your avatar, what is your A player looking for? They're looking for something where they can grow, they're looking for working for a professional outfit, they're looking for something that they can rely on. That's really important. Someone always wants to make sure that they can rely on their employer. So early on, I make sure that I'm professional right from the start, and there's a few things that we do everything from when someone comes on board with us, we set them up with a @melbourneseoservices.com email address, because that's what companies do. Companies don't say, head over to Gmail and set yourself a Gmail account up for our work. We use Google Apps to install it on our own domain name, and that's just one of those professional type things, thinking in terms of, as Pete always talks about, imagining yourself running a real-world business and then copying that and doing it over in the online space. I like to set the expectations very high, and you want to set that precedence early. If someone gets used to doing something a particular way, it's very hard for you to break them out of that habit. So very early on, you want to make sure that you set these very high expectations. You say, here's how things are done, because once they get indoctrinated into your work culture and the way that things are done, then that'll stick. It's very hard to try and change things after the fact. So this is the process that I go through, and this is the system that I use. Everything that I'm doing, I want you to think of it in terms of a system. You just learnt the system I have for hiring someone. You're about to learn the system for the way that I get people to drink the Kool-Aid and then become part of us. So the documentation is the first thing that we go through. Actually, this is a little bit of an overview, and then I'll break down into each section. The reason I like to give overviews, and this is, I suppose, coming from a speed reading course I did a very long time ago, the idea, when you first read a book, you quickly scan through the book so you get an overall understanding of what the book is about. And if you imagine the metaphor, imagine we're trying to get a tree of knowledge, and the core centre trunk is the main concept or idea that the book is trying to get across. The branches might be those bigger sort of overarching ideas, maybe they're the chapters, and then the leaves that hang off each one of those branches are the ideas. So the reason I give you this is to make sure that you set the tree right, so then as I take you through each of these stages, you can start to hang the ideas on the right branch and make sure that it sort of makes a very full picture for you. And always think about how can you implement what it is that I'm talking about in your business. That's another key. A lot of people don't actually take things through to implementation. We know probably about 10% of people who buy any sort of course online, often about 10% of them will go through it. The vast majority, the other 90%, won't even go through it. So we want to make sure that we take what it is that we're learning and be part of that 10% and take it through to implementation. So part of the documentation, we have a list of expectations. So this is after the process. They've gone through the interview. I've said, yep, welcome aboard. Then we send them some documentation before they start. And usually this is a week or two before, and they'll get a chance to review this before we have our first welcome call. So they'll get a set of expectations. They'll have to sign a confidentiality agreement. They'll get contracts that they need to sign. The contracts vary. I'll do a contract if it's someone who's coming into my office. I don't usually use contracts so much for people in the Philippines. Just setting those expectations.
On that though, I would actually, one of the reasons I use the outsourcing teams is they do get their employees to sign contracts. Because again, it just makes them self-select. If someone's not going to sign a contract for you, do you really want them working in your business? So that's something where Dave and I differ a little bit in that I like the idea of that formality, and that's coming from that real-world background that I have, is that treat it like it's a real employee. Just sort of, it's anything you can do to make that hurt a little bit more, just to make sure they are rock solid in the concrete of wanting to be part of your team.
And then you have a form as well that will get all their contact details. Very important to grab all their contact details, especially for Filipino staff, because you know that at the moment they're having brownouts, so sometimes they're unavailable to hop on at certain times. So it's good to have some other contact point. And later on, one of the super pro moves that I'll teach you is making sure that you nominate a team leader over in the Philippines. So if they can't connect with you, they can at least check in with their team leader just to let them know to let you know what's going on. They'll also get a job description where it pretty much details through. You need to know the job description before you run the ad, but then they also need to be given a job description so that you can set that expectation. And paying what's fair, that's the other thing. On my job description, I talk about the rate. I'm happy to overpay. I'll usually pay, people talk about paying Filipino staff $3, $2 and $3 an hour. I'll pay mine $5. And for them, they can live very comfortably on $5. And then I'll scale it up depending on if I'm looking for a project manager, it might be $7 or $8. But even still, with that geo arbitrage, you're well and truly in front. And the other couple of things as well, taking breaks, I stipulate this in the documentation that they get. When they take breaks, they can do it they get 2 10-minute breaks on paid time, and they get 1 half-an-hour break not on paid time. So similar to what you'd get if you were working here in Australia, they appreciate those little sort of things. What's 10 minutes here or there? But I'm telling them, hey, I'll pay for that 10-minute break, but if you want to break away for longer than that, then that is not on paid time. And also, whenever anyone signs up with me, hire slow, fire quick. I let them know up front that they're on a 3-month probationary period.